Today is the third day of this December 1982 7-day sesshin. Today's Koan also taken from the Mumonkan, the book called Comments on the Mumonkan by Shibayama, Zenke Shibayama, is numbered 29. The title is Neither the Wind Nor the Flag. In the last sesshin, we had 2 talks taken from the autobiography of the 6th patriarch, Wei Nang, as recorded many, many years later by his disciples, so it is not in a strict sense an autobiography. And this scene that is the subject matter of this koan is an incident that happened after he left the monastery of the 5th patriarch with a robe and bowl, after the incident with the general monk who followed him, tried to get the robe and bowl. After that particular incident, he went into hiding for 15 years. It says in the first chapter of the so-called Platform Sutra, which contains this autobiography, it says in there that there were still many attempts made on his life, or to get the robe and bowl. And his teacher had advised him to stay in hiding for quite a while because of that. He had anticipated that. He stayed with hunters in the mountains for a number of years. It says that he would cook his vegetables in the same pot with their meat. When they invited him to eat, he would just pick out the vegetables. But it does not say, it does say that he preached the Dharma to the hunters when occasion arose. It doesn't say that he preached vegetarianism. He just lived with these hunters, was probably very happy that there was a place he could stay. We don't know. So then, after these many years, he moved on. Felt it was time to meet with people. These hunters were people too. So he came by a monastery, and this is where this incident took place. He heard an argument between 2 monks. The way the Koan states it in this book says, the wind was flapping a temple flag. 2 monks were arguing about it. One said the flag was moving. The other said the wind was moving. Arguing back and forth, they could come to no agreement. The 6th patriarch said, it is neither the wind nor the flag that is moving, it is your mind that is moving. And it says the 2 monks were struck with awe. It appears that this koan is about an argument. In this case, the issue being, is the wind moving the flag, or is the flag moving? All of us are engaged in argument a lot of the time. On a small scale, maybe 2 people, or a small group of people, family, political parties, union and management, or countries across a conference table, United Nations or wherever, arguing issues. Can we look at all the ingredients, or not, maybe we won't see them all, the ingredients that go into argument, so that next time there's an argument, maybe there can be some seeing, some airing, some prying loose of deeply seated habits, so that maybe an argument can come to an end, not by cutting it off arbitrarily, but through seeing and understanding in oneself. Here the argument, the issue, there are 2 gross aspects. One is the issue that is being argued about, and the other is the people who are carrying on this argument. Let us first focus on the issue. What are we arguing about? And can we look at it as factually as possible? Or are we starting out with opinions? Well, here in this particular case, the fact is a flag flapping in the wind. One says, it's the wind that's moving the flag. The other says, no, the flag is moving. It seems a tenuous argument because the flag is moving. Well, and you could say, well, what is moving the flag? That was probably what happened. The wind is moving it. Well, you can't see the wind. It's just the flag moving. I don't see anything else. Your wind is theoretical. Yeah, but look, when there's no wind, what does the flag do then? It just hangs down limply. What is wind? Wind is something in movement. Air moving. What's air? Air is a mixture, many different gases. And the gas is composed of molecules, particles. So wind is particles moving. The air particles you can't see. They're invisible, even though scientifically you can give evidence of them, proof of them. But if there are dry leaves around, whoosh, then there are dry leaves in movement. There's water around, and there are waves. There are trees around, and there are branches swaying, and here there's a flag moving, flapping, making a noise. What, supposing there was a space in which there were absolutely no particles, none. No air particles, no leaf particles, no tree particles, water particles, or flag particles, nothing, just nothing. vacuum, we call it. Nothing. Could there be wind? Could there be anything moving? So when there's nothing, there's neither wind nor anything moving. So one sees that this wind and flag can't be discussed separately. The wind depends on something that can be moved. Without that, there is no wind. And without particles and movement, the flag hangs limply. So one depends on the other. There's no separate thing there. Does one look at issues in this way? Is one really interested in finding out something? Or is there much more invested in an argument than trying to find out what one is discussing? The pure, bare, provable, palpable facts. If that is so, then all of a sudden argument turns into a mutual trying to find out something. Why doesn't that happen? It is, isn't it? Because we're personally invested in our point of view, in our side, in our opinion, or what we happen to have stated. All of a sudden that becomes me. I am that point of view. And the moment you attack it, you attack me. Do you see that? All of us know that there have been times we realize what we're holding to is untenable. And yet one cannot give it up. Why can't one just drop it? Because it's untenable, you see that? It's been proven wrong. It's because one can't give oneself up. What is that oneself that one is defending? It's that opinion. And what else? Fear of losing an argument? Becoming a loser in the eyes of the other? An image. The image of the winner, the image of the loser. Both of them with powerful influence. Maybe one doesn't think in terms of winning or losing, just, it's me. I want to be acknowledged. Not necessarily as a winner, but as someone in his or her own rights. As someone. Not just wiped off the slate together with the argument. But one isn't wiped off the slate. One is still there. Unless the argument ends in a shooting. which it often does, or punching. It's always so amazing to see. Usually on the theater, unless one lives in a neighborhood where this is, I witnessed it once, where it was just a very simple, very soluble thing, but the two people started taking their coats off in front of a drugstore and punched each other till one was on the floor, on the ground. They were two suburbanites. So if we don't even consider that outcome, still we're afraid of being sort of annihilated or not acknowledged. What is it that's not acknowledged or annihilated if we don't talk about killing? Isn't it again and again and again the image to which one clings, which is me? We don't, it's so solid. You don't even see that it's just an image until it's pointed out time and time again, and then all of a sudden one glimpses it. And one is elated. It's amazing, one is elated. And the elation is not that one has seen an image, but there's an instant of seeing, which is an instant of freedom. Because as long as one is caught in the image, there's no seeing at all. And it goes on almost all of the time. One sees this one, maybe, all right. It drops and there's the next one. I'm a fair sport. I can withdraw with honor without making such a fuss as the other person is doing. Sometimes people get together because they really want to find out what's going on when we're at odds with each other, in argument with each other, in tension with each other. And one organizes a meeting, encounter group, or whatever you may call it. Many such things are going on out of a genuine wanting to live at ease. And then often what happens is one is head-on confronted with one's weakness. And then what happens? Is there freedom and space to see? Does one defend an image, or is there this new image of the one who is very, very good at taking part in these meetings and cannot be hurt? And there's still no seeing. There's still no seeing. There's still clinging to images, new ones, better ones, more foolproof ones, safe ones. Because there's an enormous fear of being hurt. In all of us. Not just in you, or in me, in everyone. Because we've been hurt all our life. Since we were very, very, very little. We were hurt when we were little, we couldn't understand anything about it. And yet the hurt was there. Sometimes so much hurt that it's capsuled off, sealed off, never to be felt again. And yet it's there. And a new herd still somehow or other is in touch with all the old herds. They're all reinforcing it. Is that an inevitable state of affairs? Old herds, present herds, and this immense fear of future herds. Constantly protecting against future herds. Images being such a protective device which forever fails and forever is newly built up, newly tried out in a different form. The image of the invulnerable one, just gritting one's teeth or really becoming numb inside, invulnerable. Which doesn't mean hurt has been resolved at all. Just more protective, more and more and more protective layers until one doesn't feel anything anymore. Is there a way out of this? Can an image truly come to an end, be seen? And in that seeing, freedom from it? If there is such an instant of freedom, that instant, that clarity, that seeing is not connected with all the past hurts. It is disconnected from all of that. But then there's no image, nothing to hold on to, nothing to protect. And therefore, no distance to other people. We try so many ways to get closer. What can we do to get closer to each other? And we devise methods, ways. But closeness is not a matter of methods and ways. Closeness is the absence of images. The absence of fear, the absence of fear of being hurt. When I have nothing to protect, to maintain, to nurture, to defend, and I don't have to do anything to get closer, then there's no division between you and me. There isn't. You may not feel that because you're surrounded by protective walls and images. Here, in this case, someone walking by hearing this argument says, it's not the wind that's moving, it's not the flag that's moving, it's the mind that's moving. And then it says, the two were struck with awe. A new image. Here is an awesome person who can speak in this way, rather than seeing what he's talking about. You may say I'm interpreting. Maybe the awe was at seeing what had been happening, but I think that would be expressed differently. Usually, traditionally, it's expressed the two monks had an insight, but it's a very typical thing. Someone says something that sounds really awe-inspiring. And one starts paying homage to that person rather than looking what makes for an argument. It's the mind that's moving. Sometimes in such meetings as encounter meetings or counseling meetings, whatever, there's a moderator, a person who is an expert at that. He has trained, university, college, practice teaching or whatever, and now he has become an authority in this. Or has he? He's very talented, gifted, and trained in telling other people what goes on in their minds. Does he or she also see what's going on in this mind, here, at the same time? That's very, very important. That whoever speaks up or moderates sees very transparently clear what's going on in this mind. Is it moving? Moving. What is it that moves in the mind? What is the moving of the mind? Constantly? It's thinking, isn't it? Thoughts constantly on the move. The whole stream of consciousness moving. That is the mind. Not just my mind, but the human mind. At the height and the heat of the argument, is it possible to take time out and just look what's happening and not think about it, just look? Again, the way we talked about it yesterday, what's happening, and not come forth with any answer. Then the mind keeps moving. An instant of stillness and quietness, motionlessness, questioning, not knowing, and yet attending to what's going on. The immediate urge is to verbalize it, explain it, put it forth. And again, clinging to what one has just put down, that's me, and the thing goes over, starts over again. Because somebody else has done the same thing but comes up with something different. There is another koan which goes like this. As I stand on a bridge, see yourself standing on a bridge. Well, we've got a little one out here. It's gotten to be a big one. Bridge there over this little river. As I stand on the bridge, looking down, the river isn't moving. It's the bridge that's moving. When there's one instant, not confined by any time, nobody's holding the stopwatch. An instant of no stream of thinking. Just looking, listening, attending or questioning. No duality, me and my practice, me and my goals, me and my inadequacy or superiority, whatever. None of that. No movement, no thinking, just looking, listening, attending or questioning. Then what seems so stuck, so firmly entrenched, is moving. In an entirely new way. Oneself with all one's old images, ideas. The freedom from that. Is it possible? Don't say yes, no. Find out. Not getting stuck in struckness with awe. There's no help at all. It's a hindrance. A while ago we said or asked, what is it that is moving in the mind all the time? And the answer was thinking, the thinking process, a stream of consciousness. More specifically, and to be detected by anyone, is the movement of comparison, comparing what is now with what was, and the feelings that arise out of that, nostalgia, anger, or feeling good now because I don't feel as wretched as I did then, comparison with others, this most pain-producing and obstructing comparison with others. What they can do that I can't do, what they have that I don't have. They have the same thing. They have the same thing. Comparison with others. We don't seem to be able to exist without it. Again, the feeling of me in comparison with others. Is it possible? No comparison. To drop it the instant it comes into awareness, drop it. Who am I when I don't compare? Not with others, and not with goals, and not with the way I was or the way I should be. Because all of that takes me away from here, who. And this who, this instant, is simply incomparable. It cannot be compared. It's everything, everyone. And yet it's also this particular unique body with its own particular unique experiences, but that's the smallest part of it, the most insignificant part of it. And yet that's where we attach the most significance to how we're different from others, worse than others, better than others. How we cling to our uniqueness, this little tip of the iceberg. And in that is lodged this feeling of separation, this agony of isolation. And yet we cling to our uniqueness. To that in which we're different from everybody else. Which is that which separates us, this idea. Deep down or not so very deep down, we're all alike. In comparing each other, wanting, frustrated if we can't get, temporarily gratified if we do get, and then bored with what we've got. And ever wanting something else, better, different. We're all afraid. Because as long as one feels oneself isolated, separate, this tenuous little image or bunch of images, of course there must be fear of its being blown away, knocked over by someone else. There cannot possibly be any clinging to image without fear of that image being blown. So out of this fear, we attach ourselves to people, and then we cling to that relationship, people or animals, groups, religious organizations, countries, whatever, ideas, movements, just something to assuage the fear and make us become somebody, because we then become what we attach to. That's us then, that's me. A little bit more solid. Maybe a little bit more permanent. Although we don't think in those terms, we think permanency. Because we want it, but it's unattainable. Relationships break up, people die, leave. It's like this the world over. We are all of that. Can we see that? Can this be clear as the sunshine? We may think we understand, but the feeling of separation the clinging to images or the building up of new images continues. Why? Why? We must observe it in action. It's the seeing, the observing, the seeing, without judgment. That is sort of the crowbar, the loosener, the loosening, the freeing. Nothing else. No one can convince you of anything. And if you say, but I can't see, why not? When anger wells up, can't you see it? When there's fear, can't it be felt? When there's comparison, can't you detect it? Maybe not the instant arises, but very quickly. When we see a lot of things, only we immediately overlay it with thought. It's good, it's bad. I don't want to be that way. That's not me. And we look away. Again, because of an image. Can you see that? There's an interesting spot here in the Platform Sutra. Right after this incident happened, I guess the abbot invited this strange person there and asked him, "Are you the one to whom the robe and bowl has passed?" And he said, "Yes, I am that unworthy one." And eventually he stays at that monastery for a while, I believe. And the abbot his name is Yingtsong. It says he bowed to me and publicly invited me to bring out the robe and bowl, show them, proof. He further asked me, saying, "What kind of teaching was given at Wangmei?" That's where Sixth Patriarch came from, where he was pounding the rice and had, I think, one meeting with the Fifth Patriarch. But through osmosis, he knew what was going on and what the quote, the teaching was, because already he had one quick interview when he arrived. The Fifth Patriarch was asking him something. I forget now what. So this abbot says, "What kind of teaching was given at Wangmei?" And the Sixth Patriarch says, or it says here, I replied, "There was no special teaching given. We were told only to look into our own nature. There was no discussion of meditation and liberation." And Tsung asked, why was there no discussion of meditation and liberation? And it says here, I answered him, because that is a dualistic doctrine. This passage never had struck me before. Until recently, a few days ago, a letter was received where something was expressed to the effect, it was about a piece of writing. This is only about attention and awareness. There's nothing in there about the goal of practice, which is insight and, in parentheses, prajna. We do want goals, don't we? Something to shoot for. something to shoot for, like what's going on right now. We're shooting not just for the moon, but for the planets, to find maybe a better place of living. And we don't see how we're living here. Can this be where the energy is totally gathered in the seeing how we're living here now and questioning the whole thing, not taking it for granted, not saying it's inevitable, unchangeable, and yet not painting pies in the sky. It may not be very scintillating, as was also mentioned in this letter. It's hard work. But do we have a choice? If we see that we don't, then we're on the way. Once we start looking and inquiring, questioning, attending, then there is energy. It's there. And then prajna comes on its own, not as a word or a description, or as manifested in clever dialogue. But in seeing and acting out of this clear seeing. That's prajna. Insight, wisdom, intelligence, whichever way you want to call it. The word is not the thing. The clear seeing is already the right action. We will end here for today.